Welcome to the Meet the Candidates Forum for the Cross Lake Mayor and City Council. Before we get started, I've just got a couple of announcements. Any of you that, or any of us that have cell phones, if you would make sure that they are turned off, please, at this time. Also, we have a series of questions that have been developed, but if we get through those questions, we will take questions from the audience. We have two individuals, Karen Christofferson and Cindy Megato. If you want to raise your hands. And if you have questions, we have sheets. Just raise your hand at any point, and they will get a sheet to you, and they will review the questions for duplicity and then bring them up to us. If we have time, we will read them. Also, there may be some questions on the Minnesota Design Team Plan and Vision that the city has been going through. Those of you that are not familiar with that, if you just go out into the hall, there's a whole wall full of information on what the recommendations are from the design team. So I would encourage you, if you're not familiar with that, to please familiarize yourself after the session tonight. Also, the session tonight is going to be taped and will be shown at least 2 times to be announced in the future on public channel 12. So if you know people that miss it and it's something that's very stimulating for you tonight, encourage them to listen to it on the TV. Again, I would like to welcome you to this evening's Meet the Candidates Forum for Mayor and City Council in Cross Lake. I am Wayne Holtmeyer, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters Brainerd Lakes area. Also with me tonight is Pat Netko. Pat will also assist with tonight's forum, and she is also a co-sponsor of the forum this evening. This is a league-sponsored forum, and as such, we make the following statement. It is the League of Women Voters' mission to promote citizen involvement in government and increase public understanding of major public policy issues. We believe that an informed citizenry is the foundation of effective democracy, and the League has had a presence in the community as a nonpartisan organization since 1995. The League of Women Voters has been recognized as a leader in voter education and respected for advocacy for good government. League membership is open to men and women, and we invite you to join us. This evening's forum is for Mayor and City Council of Cross Lake. There are 2 candidates for mayor, and there are 3 candidates for 2 city council positions. Questions for tonight's forum have been gathered at our request from members of the Cross Lake community. Our volunteers did an excellent job, and we believe their questions will take the time allotted. However, we request that our candidates remain after the official forum ends and that they be available to visit with you individually or in small groups. The format for the forum is as follows. Order of presentation was determined by a drawing prior to the start of this event, and as you look through, it goes from number 1 through number 5. Each candidate is permitted 3 minutes for an opening introductory statement. The candidate will be given a 30-second warning prior to the conclusion of their statement. Candidates will have 1 minute to respond to each question. When the moderator sees that we are drawing close to the end of the forum, I will ask for a 2-minute closing statement from each of the individuals. Determined by drawing, the candidate with the highest draw will start with his opening statement, and that would be Mr. Nevin. You can do whatever you like. Either way.
Okay. I'm Dave Nevin. I am not a politician. I've lived here for over 20 years, raised kids. I just am kind of concerned on where the city's going. I like the way it's been going in the recent years, and I kind of want to just be a part of encouraging that, growth. The planning and zoning, I like the way that is operated. I'm actually part on that commission, and I just want to keep that going.
Hi, my name's Mark Wessels. I want to thank the citizens of Cross Lake for electing me to the council 4 years ago by a wide margin. I really appreciate that. I promised to make a lot of changes, and campaigning with the new council that came in at that time. One of them's here, and there was a different mayor, and of course one guy moved out of town recently. But we did make a lot of changes in town. Planning and zoning was one of those. We made some cost savings in administration, made a lot of cost savings in the planning and zoning. Went from a 70% approval rating up to a 100% approval rating, and we were the first city in Cross Lake to adopt the new shoreline standards from the state of Minnesota. In fact, I think we're still the only city in Cross Lake that's done that, or only city in Minnesota that's done it. Several counties have, but the cities haven't yet. And we updated the commercial ordinance as well, and and with all those changes, we still were able to save. Well, I've got some flack for saying we were able to save over $100,000. But what you didn't see when I said that is I was looking at the proposed budget for 2013 from our current administration, which was at $337,000 to run that department. When a department head brings you a budget, you're asking them, what do I need to run that department? And that gentleman said he needed $337,000. I was on a committee with another council member, and we had been looking at other options, and we asked the county if they would work with us. They had recently gone through a transition down there. They offered to do it for $190,000. If you're in my seat, 70% approval rating, what do you do? That's a huge savings. Since then, we've had 2 letters of commendation from the DNR. Crow Wing County won a national award from the National Association of Counties for their work with Cross Lake. The state of Minnesota has cooperative agreements. In fact, Cross Lake has cooperative agreements. We have a joint county-city garage. We have a cooperation agreement with Mission Township and our police department. We have joint powers ventures with fire departments. These cooperations with our neighboring communities and the county that we live in save us money, bring in experts to help us out, and it's good for the community. Save money, get that different perspective from somebody that doesn't live here, sometimes to look at it and say, you know, if you did it this way, you'd do a better job, and it would save you some money. The biggest reason these cooperative agreements are going on all over Minnesota, with road maintenance, with snow plowing, with police departments, they're going on all over. The metro area is full. It's just about every city down there has a cooperative agreement with a neighboring community or the county they're in. I ran for mayor to try and keep this progress going, see if we can figure out more ways to do a better job for less money for you, the taxpayer.
Will that work?
No.
No. Hello, my name is Daryl Shannon.
You have to closer.
How about that? Can you? Okay. My name is Daryl Shannon. And for those of you that have seen me, I'm the man in the sandwich boards out there in the street waving my hand. And I bring this, and the idea was to bring the city council to you. As a little of my personal background, I'm 68 years old. My wife's name is Kathy, and we've been married for 47 years. During that time, we raised 2 daughters. I'm a Vietnam-era veteran and an active member of the American Legion Color Guard. I chair the Public Works Commission for the city of Cross Lake and have a pretty good grasp of Cross Lake's infrastructure. Kathy and I have been coming up to Cross Lake for over 40 years, visiting and making friends. When we started coming to Cross Lake, it was a sleepy little hamlet of just over 350 residents. The city was the intersection of County Road 3 and 66, and we have watched it grow into a vibrant place it is today. When my wife and I started to make plans for retirement, we purchased a seasonal lake cottage on the shores of Lake O'Brien near our friends. 6 years ago, when it was time to retire, I raised that cottage and realized our dream. Why am I here? I believe the city council, not unlike the police department and the fire department, has a responsibility to serve our community and its future. By standing here today, I am protecting one of your rights, the right to choose. Without 3 candidates, there would be no need for this election. At this time, I look forward to the questions from the floor and will pass the floor to Gary.
Hi, I'm Gary Hecox. Why am I running? My wife asked me that question too, and I gotta tell you, it was a hard choice. The choice is that I am running because I believe that we've made great strides in this city over the last 4 years. I want to keep that momentum going. I'm currently on the planning and zoning, and Mark has covered most of what I was going to talk about, so I'm not going to repeat it. But when I first started with planning and zoning, we had a 70% approval rating. We had 200 outside fines and things that we couldn't solve that they were absolutely unable to litigate. We've moved this approval rating up to 100%. There's still many improvements to be made. The area I would like to address are quality of water in our lakes. When I moved up here 17 years ago, I could see the sand bottom. At this point, I cannot see the sand bottom anymore. And that's of great concern, and it's a great concern for people coming in. It's a great concern for your property values. I believe I'm serving on the newly formed water quality team. And I also think that serving on the water quality team and all the other cross-functional teams that I serve on, that I have time for, I think is why I'm running. Thank you.
Well, I'm not going to stand. My name is Patty Norgard, and I am running for mayor. And I'm considered a newbie yet here because my husband and I have only lived here for 11 years. But about 6 years ago, I was sitting at the candidates forum just like you are tonight, and I decided to become a volunteer. So I was appointed to the Park and Rec Commission and the EDA Authority Commission. And really, I had no idea what either one was all about. And I certainly had no plans to be sitting up here this evening. However, serving on these commissions, attending council meetings, budget meetings, Cross-Lake communication meetings, chamber meetings, and more has given me a good education and a broad perspective of our community. When I became president of EDA, I was told EDA meets, about once a quarter. And I remember thinking, what? With all these vacant storefronts, you have nothing to talk about? Needless to say, we have had a meeting just about every month for the past 4 years. And even though we never had a big budget, we still were able to produce the first Cross Lake brochure, a 60-second Cross Lake infomercial. We also financially supported the commercial ordinance rewrite and invited many different speakers at no cost on a variety of topics that were significant to Cross Lake's growth. More importantly, we currently service loans that have helped local businesses who in turn support the growth of our economy. Our last project that originated in EDA was the Minnesota Design Team Weekend held this past September. The Minnesota Design Team gave us a blueprint or a vision for a future that is bright and full of opportunity for everyone. And now, your community, you will take that blueprint or vision and make it your own. I know this commitment as mayor won't be easy. However, I also understand the challenges and issues that are before us. Building a strong infrastructure, providing efficiency and effectiveness at the local government level, protecting our most important asset, the whitefish chain, managing and growing our tax base to protect us against rising property taxes, and all the while building on a future for Cross Lake that is filled with opportunities for everyone. I have been able to be a part of Cross Lake for the past 11 years. Cross Lake is my home. I am fortunate to have been an active participant on many different levels, from working with EDA and Park and Rep to help organize Light Up the Dam to bringing the Heartland Symphony Orchestra to town. I am also uniquely positioned to provide the leadership and recognize the great potential we have as a community and as a people to move Cross Lake into a bright future.
Good. We will now start with the questions. I'm going to ask a question, and I know there are 5 of you up there. If you need the question repeated, please just ask, and I'll be happy to do that. Each of you will have 1 minute for each question. We're going to start with you. Please. Yeah, we will with the questions. Okay, the first question is for Mr. Nevin. As you have just heard, Cross Lake just went through the Minnesota Design Team exercise. Which ideas, if any, do you support? And if elected, how would you work with other council members to implement any of these suggestions?
Well, the design team was a great thing to come in, and there were some great things came of it. You know, there's expense. I like the aquarium down by the dam, but that's a pretty big undertaking, I believe. You know, the trails through the city and the marked distances, there's a lot of things that came out of that thing. So it just got to be on committees and talked about and decide what's important and how we're going to pay for it. But I think it was a great thing to come to town and to look at. Nothing else, just to dream about it.
Okay. Mr. Wessels.
Same question?
Yes, same question.
I'm going to stand up. I talk better on my feet, I guess. The design team, I was didn't get involved with it early on. I wanted to see what was going on with it. Started attending the meetings in July or so when they had the picnic at the park in town, and a lot of excitement, a lot of enthusiasm for it. When the presentation finally happened, I was at that, and there was a lot of interesting ideas that came out of that. Some of the things we were already talking about, Park and Rec, and there was a lot of trails mentioned in there. And I know the Park and Rec committee that I'm on has been wanting to work on detached trails next to roadways and through the woods for quite some time. That's one of the, to me, that's my favorite project that came out of there. That Loon Center or Whitefish Area Center that they talked about, that's a huge one. I don't know if we'll get that done or not, but it's a very interesting one, and I'll be anxious to talk with the design team committees and see what they can come up with for ideas for funding, and I understand there might be some funding opportunities available for that. The rest of the stuff on there, I guess there's a wide variety of stuff. And so I want to see what people are going to do with it, what the committees come up with for it. It was a great idea.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Shannon.
The design team went through a lot of effort and created a beautiful map of something we can do in the future. If you look at any one thing, and what I've seen with my involvement with Public Works, is everybody wants trails. Trails are probably one of the highest priority items in the whole gambit of things that are out there. And I know from experience, we've talked with about some ideas in Public Works about taking some of the chips from the downed trees and turning them into trails that are a little softer than the paved ones alongside the road. But I think trails is probably the biggest one of the whole bunch that I would think was easiest to implement. As far as the others, I think they all need work, and work in far as how we're going to fund them, what direction we want to go, and how we want to get there. I'll pass this on to Gary.
Okay. Mr. Hecox.
Yes, I was a member of the Cross Lakers and also attended all the Minnesota Design Team meetings, plus the Cross Lakers meetings on Mondays. From that, I think the school is very important. We need to energize the youth of this community. I'm also on the water quality team with Bob Perkins, and I'll be working on that. I'm also a core member of revamping the comm plan to bring that up to date. We're also looking at, I'm a director of the Lions Club, and we're looking at some form of a taxi or something It's going to be a president's initiative, and I think the Minnesota's design team did a lot of work. Some of it good, some of it not so good, because some of it is on core property, and that's going to be very hard to get through.
Thank you. Ms. Norgard?
Well, I think the best thing that came out of the Minnesota design team was the renewed energy and spirit that it brought to Cross Lake. I mean, it was just incredible the amount of volunteers that we had that came out in support of this project, and the community who attended all of our events leading up to that weekend. For me, I think one of the biggest thing that came out of that was what our community wanted, and that's preservation of our water quality. And so that has to be our first and foremost priority, because that leads to so many other issues and initiatives and opportunities and challenges in the Cross Lake area. Like we've mentioned, connectivity was also really important.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, we'll list. Well, we won't take the time right now. The second question, we'll start with Mr. Wessels. Now that Cross Lake Communications has been sold, what is your top priority for using the proceeds from the sale?
Well, as I said at a council meeting a while back, let's get the money in the bank first. Once we have the money in the bank, the sale is going to put roughly $6.3, almost $6.4 million into our pocket. The $280,000 a year that we were getting from the phone company before, and by the way, part of that 15% levy raise last year, 10% of that was because we gave that money back in preparation for the sale. The phone company was paying the city $280,000 every year. And so we gave that money back. It would take 33 years to pay the city at $280,000 a year to get that money back that we're getting from this from the sale. Plus, we had $1 million sitting in reserves over there, so we actually have about $7.4 million. The phone company also committed to $400,000 a year over a 5-year period in infrastructure increases. We have about a $5 million road replacement plan ahead of us.
Okay, thank you. Your time is up. Mr. Shannon.
I believe that we should create an ordinance for the city of Cross Lake to take the proceeds from Cross Lake Communications and create 2 reserves. One is about $4 million to pay back retire the bonds that Cross Lake holds for putting fiber into half of Cross Lake, and the rest of it should sit in another reserve account and be held by the city for a minimum of 2 years and for infrastructure improvements, and those improvements should only be made with a unanimous decision by the council. And at that point, one council member could veto anything that he didn't feel was appropriate for the city. So let's not take the money that we receive and use it to offset our taxes. Let's use it for something that will create something new, maybe something from the...
Thank you. Mr. Hecox.
First of all, we need to get the money. Second of all, we need to budget that money out. We have roads to do. We have a sewer plant that needs updating. Maybe we extend the sewer. Maybe we look at some ways of taking and making some small sewer plants or pods, or however you want to explain it. And that way, we won't have to run the lines all over town, because it gets to be probably about $1 million a mile to run sewer lines all the way through the town, and that just is not going to really happen.
Thank you. Ms. Norgard.
Thank you. Well, I agree with Mr. Shannon that we pay off the existing bonds and that for 2 years it is held in a reserve account. I also believe that when that money is spent, it should be spent for something that is going to have a lasting impression for Cross Lake, meaning that whatever we do, we don't want it to disappear in 20 years. That's hard-earned money, and we want that to be representative of our community for many years to come.
Thank you. No, goes down, one more down to Dave. Yes, Mr. Nevin.
Well, I am not gonna pretend to know everything there is about finances and what we're gonna do with the $5 or $6 million bucks, but, I think there are some priorities, roads or whatever it is, to keep the taxes where they're at would be good, and to do some kind of a monument, maybe that is a good thing. I think the important thing is to talk about it and see what people want. It's all your money. See what you wanna do with it. But honestly, I haven't put a lot of thought into it, so I don't have a real intelligent answer.
Okay, thank you. The third question will start with Mr. Shannon. Should Cross Lake's sanitary sewer system be expanded? Please provide reasoning for your answer.
Well, I would not expand the sewer system as we know it today. I was in a meeting the other day and we looked at expanding it, down County Road 3, and the expansion was about $1 million, and it serviced 20 people. So that's about $50,000 a customer. That's a pretty steep price to pay for a sewer expansion. I think the sewer system in Cross Lake, as long as we have pipes there, will allow people to connect. But I think what we really need is a sewer district where they manage your septic systems. The city should manage your septic systems in a way that every 3 years, no matter who you are, we divide the city in a pie, cut it in thirds. 1/3 gets their septic system pumped.
Your time is up. Thank you. Mr. Etox.
I too don't think that we can afford to extend the sanitary system. I think we're going to need to take a long look at that. I'm not against what Mr. Shannon is saying. However, I think that's going to take a lot of diligence and work to put together, and I kind of mentioned that in the last go-around. Thank you.
Ms. Norgard.
I don't think that question can be answered with just a no. I think it is so much broader than that. Number one is our water quality, and so everything that we do around that, which includes the septic system, but also has to, our sewer system, but also has to consider our individual sewer systems that we have on our properties. We have to be concerned about the runoff from roads. We have to be concerned about what's going into our dishes, from our ditches into our lakes. So when I think about a sewer expansion, I think about really delving into the research and looking for resources and other alternatives that may be better for Cross Lake, since we have such a unique geographical situation here right by a lake. So this is going to take a lot of thought. It's going to take some time. And to figure out overall what is the best thing that we can do for our community and to preserve the water quality we have.
Thank you. Mr. Nevin.
Could I ask you to just repeat that, just to make sure what the question is?
Should Cross Lake sanitary sewer system be expanded? Please provide reasoning for your answer.
Well, if there is an expansion, it just should be to high-density, high-use areas, if there are any. I'm not really sure where it goes and what it covers now. But as far as the water quality, right now, if you have a septic system, you don't have to have it checked unless you're gonna do an improvement to your property. So I kind of think that they should be looked at every so often, 5 years or whatever it is. And I don't really know if the sewer systems are a big part of the water quality problem. I gotta believe they would be, but ditches, runoff, all kinds of stuff would, but those would be good questions to ask and to find out the answers to.
Okay. Mr. Wessels?
Oh, I gotta stand up, hang on. Briefly on that, the phone company, the debt on that was $2.5 million. And that in the contract, that money has to be set aside to pay that, it can't be paid early. On the sewer expansion, we talked about sewer districts and smaller systems way back in 1999 when I was on long-range planning. Battle Lake area has that, and several other communities in the state have that. What a sewer district would entail, not just expanding the pipe on the plant that we have now. Ted Strand brought this to the attention again. I'd forgot about it. Ted brought it back to our attention at the council. We do these similar to what you would in a townhouse association. You have smaller systems that service smaller, high-density areas, and the systems would be close by, not running all over town. And I think we need to, and to protect our lake, I think we need to look at all options on expanding the sewer, if that's running a pipe to the factory or these smaller districts, like Ted was talking about the last couple of meetings ago. That warrants a lot of attention.
Thank you very much. Okay. The fourth question, we'll start with Mr. Hecox. Okay. Is the City of Cross Lakes administrative structure sufficient to meet the needs of Cross Lake residents now and into the future? Please support your answer.
Yes, I think our administration is very good right now. I think that we need to promote from within. I think we have some very capable people there. We need to hang their hat on some of these people so that they have the right to make some decisions. It shouldn't always come to the council. It should be able to have a person there. And we have very capable people in that office down there. Thank you.
Ms. Norgard.
I don't think we're run effectively with the current staff at our local government. A mayor is the face of the city, and a city administrator is the glue that keeps it running together. And right now we're missing that. And we have huge projects that are coming up, our sewer, our roads, and we need someone who is a full-time person who is sitting in that office every single day managing those projects. And so my answer to that would be unequivocally no.
Thank you. Mr. Nevin, you're getting your exercise today.
That's good, I need it. Well, I like you, Patty, but I disagree with you. I think the city is running really well, and I think we're all saving a lot of money by not having a full-time administrator. We've got a good guy in Dan Voigt that's there, and he's not here all the time, but, you know, in this day, when you can Skype and snipe and do all kinds of different things, I don't think being present in the room is that important. So, you know, that's a big expense to have a full-time administrator there, and I don't think we need it. I think it's running really well.
Mr. Wessels.
Well, I'm with Dave on that. A full-time administrator is going to cost us about $140,000 a year. Currently, we're only paying, so far this year, we've only paid out $13,000. Dan Vogt, and he's available by phone, email, Skype. He's available all the time, no matter where he is. He does this part-time for other communities, i.e., maybe we should learn from them. Little Falls, Pequot Lakes, and other communities do the same thing. So he works for a number of different communities, and he brings their ideas to us. The biggest thing, the $140,000 a year for a full-time employee, after these projects are done, then what do you do with them? They usually end up hanging around, sucking our money out of us for many, many years after the project is gone. So we can hire contract employees to do these big projects, and I've actually proposed that at a council meeting recently, that we hire a contract employee can come in and do that 30,000-foot overview and try and work with the Minnesota design team and the road projects and the sewer projects. Here's what it would look like, here's what, putting them, you know, so you don't wire the house, then find out, nope, I needed that first.
Thank you. Mr. Shannon.
Can I get you to repeat the question, please?
Yes. Is the City of Cross Lake's administrative structure sufficient to meet the needs of Cross Lake residents now and into the future? Please support your answer.
Well, I think we should modify the structure. We have a financial person, we have a administrator, and I think that should be one person. We're not that big that we need two people to fill that position, but we probably need one, and we need one to guide. Theoretically, the administrator is the head of all the departments. Ted Strand would report to our administrator, our planning and zoning people would report to that administrator, and we'd have a good, solid-run business organization, as opposed to one where the person we've got really doesn't have Cross Lake's best interest at heart, because he or she doesn't live here. So I think we need to look to that as a solution, turn two jobs into one, and have it be a permanent employee of Cross Lake. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The fifth question, we'll start with Ms. Norgard. Okay. Based on your knowledge of the comprehensive plan, what parts of it, in your opinion, work well for our city, and what parts, if any, would you change?
That plan was originally, had its origination in 2002, I believe, and it was finalized in 2008. So obviously, we have about 13 years that have passed. So there are some things that have been accomplished in that comprehensive plan. And I was just reading it about a week ago, and it's amazing how true that comprehensive plan is today, and the wishes of the community have not changed. We know that some of the roads have been completed. We know that some of the trails have been completed. So obviously, there are things that can be updated. And I always think it's a good idea to take your plan off the shelf and update it according to what's happening in the community. So I would say that probably roads and trails are one of the biggest changes that will be in there.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Mr. Nevin.
I think this is another one of those finance questions that I don't really know a whole lot about. And I guess that's just the truth. I don't even know how to respond to it intelligently, so I'm just going to pass it along.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wessels.
All right, I'm done standing up. Okay. I got to move my chair each time. The comp plan, like I said, was adopted in 2008, so although it started in 2002, there were a number of changes made throughout that. So yes, it's still getting 8 years old, not 13, but it's still 8, and it does need to be updated periodically regardless. I don't know what the key from other cities is, every 10 years or every 15 years if they have a number. But we have a guy that helped us with the zoning ordinance, John Sumption. He specializes in comp plans as well. I'm not opposed to having that upgraded. The things that I like the best about it, in there it says specifically several times that we should expand these partnerships, like I've been saying, with the county and the neighboring communities as a cost-saving measure, and it also helps bring in new ideas.
Thank you. Mr. Shannon.
I hate to say this, but I'm like Mr. Nevin. I don't have enough information to honestly answer your question. But I will, if elected, I will surely research it and come up with a reasonable solution to that problem, those problems.
Thank you. Mr. Hecox.
Part of my, I have been working on the comprehensive plan and the update to it. There are a lot of things in there that are very true that we're making headway on. I think that every council member, when elected, should have to go through and read that. Some of the things in there, like the medium income and housing, what housing is selling and whatever else in that comp plan is so outdated that it's ridiculous. And those things will get updated, and it isn't going to change a whole lot. It's going to basically stay the same, and we need to support the trails and the things that are in that comp plan.
Thank you. We're back with question 6 to Mr. Nevin. Okay. The Crow Wing County Housing and Redevelopment Authority is reporting statistical trends from the 2010 census that indicates Cross Lake will see an increase of 233 households by the year 2030. How will you address additional housing needs in Cross Lake?
Well, that has kind of risen a little bit now, and I would like to give, I don't know what it is, give builders an incentive to come in and build some houses of different levels so that people can afford it. We need some affordable housing for some people, but we don't want to get, I don't know even what it's called, poverty housing or something. We don't want to give it away, but we want to house some people to do some work and to do some stuff around it. So I don't know a lot about that right now, but I think it's a real important thing to look at and to create some areas for it.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Wessels.
My background is 31 years in the real estate business. I've been looking at Crow Wing County housing reports for many, many, many years, and I usually don't agree with them completely. 233 new households coming in. They very seldom take into account the houses that get tore down and rebuilt. So if they're somewhat deceiving in the number, that there won't be 233 new houses, more than likely, but there'll be probably half of those or something, I don't know what the number is, will be on existing home sites now that have been tore down and remodeled or replaced. I'm still a market-driven guy on that sort of thing. The city gets involved in trying to make money in housing. I just think that's disastrous. I think the market will generate that, and when there's a need for it, we have a planning and zoning department. They'll approve or deny plats and subdivision requests that'll account for this stuff. But a lot of this is just going to be market-driven. As the market demands for it, if the city tries to push it.
Thank you. Mr. Shannon.
I contacted Planning and Zoning the other day, and they told me last year in Cross Lake there were 30 complete home permits issued. So far this year there's been 23 permits for complete homes. I know that I don't know about new homes, but there seems to be a fair number of middle priced homes in Cross Lake. I know that I looked at one the other day, didn't look at it, but I saw one in an ad for a very nice townhouse just here off of 3 for $125,000. The guy that built my house, which I had built 6 years ago, built one just down off of 3 in Cross Lake. I think he sold it for $180,000. So there's lots of medium-priced homes in Cross Lake. The biggest problem Cross Lake has is how are you going to create jobs for those people?
Thank you. Mr. Hecox.
I do think we need to take a look at some non-polluting industry to get in here. Most of our homes are tear downs. There are people that are retiring. There's people, some of the older community here would like to get into a smaller home, get off the lake. There is a need for it, and it'll be driven by builders. And I really don't think the council is going to be able to affect that a whole lot. I don't think we want to get into Section 8 housing and bring in the people that don't work. And let's face it, there's not a lot of jobs in this town that people can make a living and pay a house payment.
Thank you. Ms. Norgard.
Well, I agree that I think 230 new housing coming in by 2030 is a little bit on the high side. I know the University of Minnesota Extension, they had about 170 to me, which seems a little bit more realistic. So over the next 15 years, that is not a lot of people who are going to be coming into Cross Lake if you break it down on an annual basis. One of the other things that we are missing in here in Cross Lake are rentals for especially our service industry employees. And so that is an issue that we probably have to look at in a little greater depth. And I also agree, I don't want necessarily government to get into the housing, but as Jennifer Bergman said at one of our HRA meetings at EDA, you know, there is a place for us. And so I think we just have to keep our minds open, look to see where our growth is, whether it's those seniors coming off
Okay.
the lake
Thank
or
you.
our rental.
Thank you. Okay. Our 7th question, we'll start with Mr. Wessels. Okay. In your opinion, regarding Cross Lakes business community, what additional steps could the city council take to encourage growth?
Well, as I said at an EDA meeting a few years ago, number one thing that the city of Cross Lake can do is to get the rocks out of the field and level it off, get the weeds out of the field so it's ready to plant. We did that by upgrading the shoreline ordinance and again upgrading the city commercial ordinance, which had a lot to do with signs and lighting and that sort of thing. The whole idea for commercial enterprise to flourish is you have to give them a welcoming place to come and start their business. And we had to make significant changes to the zoning ordinance in order to make that an easier place for people to come in here, cut some of the red tape so it's easier for people to come into town, so they don't spend all their time just, okay, trying to satisfy the city government and we're going to comply with all this stuff. Reduce the regulations so it's easier for them to do that. Our ordinance, by the way, went from over 300 or almost 400 pages down to 151 we have right now. So we've done that.
Thank you. Mr. Shannon?
Can I get you to repeat the question again?
Yes. In your opinion regarding Cross Lakes business community, what additional steps could the city council take to encourage growth?
I'm not really sure there are many things that the city council can do to encourage growth. Growth is driven by need, and we have vacant storefronts. We have a very seasonal climate of population growth. We go from 2,000 people, or probably less than that in the wintertime, to 14,000 people in the summer. And so you have to figure out a way to survive on roughly 5 to 6 months worth of business. And that's an almost impossible thing for a small commercial type of organization to thrive. What you really need to do is figure out a way to create non-brick and mortar types of employment in Cross Lake so that we can bring in people that work in offices and create higher paying jobs. Our kids are not going to stay in Cross Lake if there are no jobs for them.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hecox?
One of the first steps that I think the council did, and we did as a group, is we sold Cross Lake Communications to bring in broadband to all to service businesses that are coming in. This is going to help immensely as far as bringing businesses in here that are non-polluting. And as I said before, we need to get those businesses in here, and then the storefronts will fill up, we'll have more business in town, and we'll have a year-round business.
Thank you. Ms. Norgard?
Repeat the question, please.
In your opinion, regarding Cross Lakes business community, what additional steps could the city council take to encourage growth?
Well, number one, I think we, as a city council, but more importantly, maybe as a chamber, we have to go out and find the business that we want to come in here, and then go out and ask them to come in. And so it's like, we're not going to go to trade shows, we're not going to fly all over, but if we want a high-tech company to come to Cross Lake, we have to go and search him out and say, this is the best place for your business, and give him the reasons why a business should relocate here. And it's odd, but a lot of the new businesses that have opened up here already have a connection. So are we missing an opportunity by not reaching out to more of our seasonal homeowners and offering them an opportunity to see if there's some way that they would like to expand a business here or open up a new business here? That's a very difficult question to ask, and it's like the chicken before
Okay.
the egg.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nevin?
That is a tricky question. You know, the labor force up here, you can't find anybody in the summer, and in the winter, you got nothing for them to do unless you're a Clow Stamping or a, you know, Crosstech or one of those, so. I think the council, if they could somehow just let it be known that they're friendly to businesses to come in, and they'll do what they can do to work with them, whatever it takes, to get them to stay, just to get that kind of going around the block, and hopefully somebody would come in with some kind of, something that'd do it. They gotta be able to pay the people enough in the winter so that they'll stick around and keep working for them in the summer, and that's a hard thing to do here. So I just think just to be friendly to anybody comes in, whether it's the council or planning and zoning or whatever, but just work with them to make sure if we have an opportunity, we let it happen.
Okay, thank you. Ready for the question? We'll start with Mr. Shannon. As Cross Lake encourages commercial development, what can the city council do to maintain Cross Lake's small town up north feel?
I would tell you that we can't. And when I opened this up, I said, I've been coming up here for 40 years. I've seen Cross Lake turn from 4 storefronts and maybe a very small marina boat operation into a thriving city of 14,000 people, because that's what it is in the summertime. There are, what, 5 banks, 10 churches, 23 bars and restaurants? You know, so if that's what you're looking for, you know, and we have lots of beautiful business property lots in what I would call beautiful downtown Cross Lake that have city sewer already run to them. You know, there's lots of things that the city can offer to someone who wants to put up a brick and mortar facility. But other than that, I don't know if I have an answer.
Mr. Hecox?
Could you repeat that?
Yes. As Cross Lake encourages commercial development, what can the city council do to maintain Cross Lake's small town up north feel?
That's a difficult question. First of all, it would be nice if we had nice-looking storefronts and things like that to encourage people to come. We need to do a lot of work on that. Pat's done a wonderful job with the ice cream store. But to encourage more people to come in, we'd have to open up the doors and we have to talk to them.
Ms. Norgard?
Repeat the question, please. Thank you.
As Cross Lake encourages commercial development, what can the city council do to maintain Cross Lake's small town up north feel?
Well, I don't think we're ever going to have a Medtronic coming in here, or a Microsoft, or a big Super Value. So I don't think we'll be faced with the large box stores and how they look on the outside. What we will probably be having are smaller commercial stores and storefronts that certainly can make their outside feel like an up north. And I think Pat's is a good example of that. And also, Kicks on 66, the old drugstore, was repurposed, and so it looks like a quaint little shop in a quaint little town. And there's nothing wrong with planting a bunch of trees around your property, because that's what's up here, are trees. So the other thing is, we may have to take a closer look at putting some architectural guidelines into our comprehensive plan. But I think there are many, many, many ways that we can retain our small town feel with the storefronts that we have.
Thank you. Mr. Nevin?
Well, what does a small town feel? I think we should have a barn dance every once a month out in the street. maybe do little small park benches and, you know, more of the small park attitude, but I mean, that kind of sounds funny, but that might be kind of a fun thing to try. I guess they do a little bit of it at Town Square, but, you might have to have a keg of beer or something out for it.
Okay, Mr. Wessels.
All right, first off, there's a lot of people in town that don't want the town to change at all, so when we're encouraging commercial development, you gotta understand about half the town doesn't want that. But if we're gonna keep the small town feel and encourage that development, you're really talking home-based businesses or that type of small business, which really we need to expand our fiber to the home throughout town. It's not done. Yes, we sold the phone company, but if we help them, when we're putting in new roads, there's no excuse not to put fiber under that road to make it less expensive for them to get fiber out to places like Mr. Dietz is over here and Mr. Rowe is out there. Get fiber to these homes, and that's going to be, we have to work together with our new partner, which is the Trico Emily Company. One other thing quickly is, 10 years ago we wanted to keep town dark. Now we want to get it all lit up with new streetlights. 10 years from now, people are going to want it dark again. So I talked about that this morning with my son, or this afternoon. He said, maybe we should just turn the lights on 6 months a year.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go down, and our ninth question is for Mr. Hecox, which we'll start. And we do have some questions from the audience, so if there are any others, please turn them over and so they can come on up to the front. Thank you. Okay. What is your best idea for keeping property taxes affordable for Cross Lake property owners?
Keep the government as small as you can keep it. Because if we go to a big government, we're gonna see a tax increase. We need to keep going the way we are because we actually have reduced the taxes, the burden. I know the taxes went up last year, but that's because of the phone company and things like that. But you just cannot have big government.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Nogard.
Well, I don't think big government has anything to do with lowering or significantly retaining the tax base on where we're at. I think we have to expand our tax base, and what that means is bringing in more businesses. And I know we've talked about how difficult that is, but we cannot cut ourselves into prosperity. If we do any more cutting, there won't be anything left of Cross Lake at all. So when we talk about what the Minnesota Design Team did, and when they brought in a vision, that is going to open up all kinds of opportunities on how we can expand the tax base in Cross Lake. People will be drawn to this community, either for the jobs or because they want to live, work, and play here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nevin.
Can I ask you to repeat it, just so it's fresh when I
Yes, sir.
start?
What is your best idea for keeping property taxes affordable for Cross Lake property owners?
I haven't thought about this question or the answer, but there's a little vision back there that, again, Patty, all due respect, I disagree with you. I think smaller government is a key to that. And I think by somehow getting citizens to volunteer and come in and be a part of a government that's not on the payroll would be a good thing. And I think it'd make a small town feel good about itself by doing that too. Now, I don't know that I've heard anybody mention that, but I think it's something that could be talked about. We do have a lot of committees here, and they don't get paid, so that's a good thing, but I think we could expand on that. There'd be a lot of pride. I'm a builder guy. I got some stuff. I've volunteered often over the last years to help plow snow or help do something, and you can never do it because of the unions and all the things that get in the way of it. I think there's a real opportunity for people to be real proud of the town by allowing them to do little things to help it out.
Thank you. Mr. Wessels.
the keep tax low, I agree with the members here that want to keep government small. That's the real key, is keep government out of the way of the people. I know I'm on EDA with Patty, and I know she complains that we're number 2 lowest rate in the region frequently, and looks at that like a target. We should raise taxes. And I hear that a lot from Patty, and I beg to disagree with her on that. If you want to expand businesses in the area, keep tax rates low. People build $500,000 houses where the taxes are low. They don't build $500,000 houses where they know they're going to pay twice as much tax. And that's the big key for us. We're number 2 in the region. I don't know if that was 40 or 50 cities. Tom Swenson did that study a number of years ago. Mike Linus expanded on it recently. And we're still number 2 in the region at the lowest tax rate. Now, that's not the lowest number of dollars per person. We have expensive homes here. But I'm proud of that we're the second lowest in the region.
Mr. Shannon?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
What is your best idea for keeping property taxes affordable for Cross Lake property owners?
Affordable is an odd way to look at them. All of you have cars, and when they get old and tired, you replace them. You all have streets in front of your house, and when they get old and tired, the city replaces them. And if you look at our budget, all the money we spend, or most of it, is not on payroll. It's on street improvements. It's on fixing things in our sewer plant. It's on buying fire trucks. So do we, we have things wear out, and the city needs to replace them. It will never, it has a tax base that's probably almost as big as Baxter's. And you think about it, just because we have these beautiful homes and we have a great tax base, we have a revenue stream, but things get old and tired. So taxes are going to increase.
Thank you. Okay, we have a question from the audience, so if you want to pass that down to Ms. Norgard, please. Okay. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. What are your plans for our police and fire departments?
Keeping them. And giving them the opportunity to be the best we can for the safety and protection of our community.
Thank you. Mr. Nevin.
Well, I think most of you probably have heard how much I appreciate the fire department. I had a recent little run-in the last year with them, and no, I think it's great. I mean, we got to support them and keep them, and the police too, to have them around. It's somehow with buying the $500,000 water trucks and stuff. I mean, it's got to make sense to us because it is a lot of money. They need to have good equipment to work with, and we just got to monitor it, keep an eye on it.
Mr. Wessels.
4 years ago when I ran, I said we're blessed in this area with a good police force and a great fire department. I'll say the same today. Our police department here, we don't have a high crime rate, obviously, but they're primarily first responders. The sirens that you hear at 5 in the morning, somebody's having a heart attack or somebody slipped and fell, and it's important to have those people get out there right away. And they're usually the first ones available to do it because they have the car there, they're on duty already, and so they're usually the first ones there. Fire department obviously does a great job here in the area, and the cooperative agreement that we have with the neighboring communities helps it even be better. They wouldn't have got that fire out up there at Manhattan if they didn't have Ideal and the other communities coming over to help us out. As far, well, that was what was the rest of the question? It was, hey, that's really all I got to say. Is I'm in favor of supporting those policemen, and we've the fire department, now we pay them for going to a fire, nominal amount, but we do pay them.
Thank you. Mr. Shannon.
I would have no plans to change our police and fire department as we know it today. The only thing I might see us do is maybe expand the coverage that our policemen cover, because we cover Cross Lake, and we have,
Ideal Township we support, Mission. And if we could add another township to our list, we could actually spread our costs out a little further. So other than that, I couldn't see a change.
Mr. Hecox?
Having been an EMT and a fire department, worked at the fire department, I actually trained at Texas A&M. We have a wonderful fire department here. I know we bought a truck last year. We're going to be forced with buying more trucks. If we don't buy the trucks and we don't expand it, we're going to end up paying it in insurance costs, because right now, that is very important.
Okay, we have, if we want to pass the mic up, we have another question from the audience. We'll start with Mr. Nevin. Are you ready, sir?
I'm ready.
Okay, the charter school is an asset to Cross Lake. How will you promote it, and what is your knowledge of how it will be funded?
Not a lot of knowledge on the funding. I will support it wholeheartedly. I raised 4 kids here that went to the charter school, and it was fabulous for them. So, you know, the low density and the one-on-one, I mean, it's a great thing for the whole community. The funding of it, and should the city be in charge of it or something, I mean, that's a wide open can of worms, but whatever happens, we'll support it. I don't know that we should pay for it as a city. Maybe that wasn't the question, but the support is what's needed.
Thank you. Mr. Wessels?
Very similar response to 4 years ago with the same question. Help them out by reducing red tape, help them out wherever we can to get the construction going. The land has already been donated by a landowner here in town, and I know that this charter school can't own the building. That's got to be privately held, and they lease it. I'm not familiar with all the ins and outs of that, but again, it's really not a city issue other than help them when they need to be able to pave this or build here, to help them out along those lines and give them as much advice and help it as we can.
Thank you. Mr. Shannon?
As Mr. Wessel said, the city can't, or the school can't own the building. It's had the land donated, and if they want to build a building with public interest, then they're probably looking for donations, and I would respect them to come see you and say, would you please open your wallet? But the city can't help them in that vein. As far as making it possible for them to relocate to where they are, there's a sewer connection there for them, which helps reduce some of their operating costs. And I think it's a strong school, makes for a strong community, so it's important that we look at them and make it as easy as possible for them to continue their plans to expand.
Thank you. Mr. Hecox?
I feel that the charter school is very much needed. It's needed for the youth of the community. If you wanted to see youth of the community work at the MDA thing up at the Lutheran Church, Pat had those kids just jumping out there. They did a wonderful job. And that's what we need. We need to install these kids with some drive and try to find them some jobs. Maybe we can get some on-the-job training or something for these kids when they're not in school. I support the community school 100%. Thank you.
Ms. Norgard?
Well, I also am a big supporter of the Cross Lake Community School, and I know right now they have 501c3 called the Lake Foundation, so they will be moving into a fundraising program. And I think financially, in some way, will the city ever be involved? I think that's to be determined. I don't think we know that yet. But more importantly, I think what their plan is to involve the community as much as possible so that the community has a sense of ownership in that school, and that they will be opening it up for us to have all different kinds of events there, classes there. So it's not just going to be a 9 to 4. where the building sits vacant, open on weekends and the evenings. And I think that's one of the most positive things about that school, is that it is totally a community school.
Thank you. That completes the questions for the forum this evening. We'll move to the up to 2-minute closing statements by each candidate, and we will start with Mr. Wessels. You have up to 2 minutes.
Let me talk more, okay. Somebody asked me why I was running for mayor. City was gonna let me out on good behavior in 2 months from my stint on council, and I decided to re-up and stay involved. We've made some great changes in the last 4 years. We've saved the city a lot of money. I know tax rates went up. You gotta understand, in 2013 alone, I think it was there, we had requests for like around $2 million in capital improvements to fix up things that were just plain end of service life. And we had that all over the community. We have, every year we're inundated with new calls for, $1 million for roads here, $1 million for sewer plant here. The modems and the phone company, there was $1 million and $1.2 million and those things that were out of service date. So that was the biggest surprise I had when I got onto the council 4 years ago, is how worn out everything here was. And so yes, we did have to bump the tax up a little bit, but we did pay for a lot of it with cash by lowering costs as well. We saved significant amounts of money down at City Hall and different cost-saving measures, and so we were able to pay a lot for a lot of our improvements here in cash. I want to keep the progress going. I don't want to go backwards. 2 years ago, every single candidate up here, and there were 10 2 years ago, when asked, would you keep planning and zoning as it is, they all said, it's better now than it was, it's working well, I won't change it. Every single candidate said they won't change it. We've won national awards with it. It's doing very, very well. This last year, I've heard a number of people talk about how smoothly the city's running. Yeah, it is. I agree with them. It's running really well. So why do we want to go back to what we had before? I don't agree with that. I think we should keep doing what we're doing right now, and that's primarily while I'm running for mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Shannon.
This is the second time I've sat up here and talked to you people, and I don't have the answers. I don't know that I will ever have all the answers to all the questions that'll come up. But if you elect me as your councilman, I've always claimed, and I will listen, I will be open-minded, and I will try to take a financial spin on what we're trying to do and be frugal. I'm also the frugal guy without the street signs. So, and I will continue to be that person. But I did come up with an idea, and if you elect me, starting in February, I'm going to start what I call cookies with the candidate, or cookies with the councilman. And once a month, I will be sitting over in City Hall in the council chamber with a plate of cookies, a pot of coffee, and you can come talk to me, and and we can take that and go anywhere we want with it. I will listen and maybe support you, maybe argue with you, but at least it'll be a one-on-one, and I'll be there for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hecox.
I decided to run basically because I like the way things are going now. It's operating smoothly. I serve on a lot of different committees. I'm trying to expand on all of that. The water quality thing is not a short-term project. That project is probably going to take 10 or 15 years, because it's not only going to happen in the city here, it's going to go out probably 10 miles. And we're going to try to talk to farmers who've got runoff and do a lot of things in that area, and that's what's needed to get this water quality back. We have a lot of improvements that we've made over the last years, and I want to keep those going, and I want to keep the city running. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Norgard.
Our son Justin said to me when he called home this past weekend, "Well, Mom, you can either win big or lose big." And what I mean by that, if you stay true to yourself and the principles you stand for during this campaign, you are a winner no matter what the outcome. That's my baby. He's 44 years old. So it was interesting to me as I started preparing for this forum that I've been saying the same things for the last 5 years. Economic development, seeking opportunities for growth and expansion. Education, embracing and supporting our Cross Lake Community School. Environmental stewardship, realizing the importance of our lakes and forests to the overall economy and economic health of our community. Fiscal responsibility, recognizing that a solid financial footing is necessary to the maintenance of our quality of life. Keeping our taxes as low as possible by building a good, strong base. And lastly, remembering that as a family, we are connected. Young or old, retired or just starting out, we need to embrace and celebrate one another. We are all in this together. We share both a history and a future, and the future is up to you. So if national awards are important to you, I'm not your candidate. If you are for rising taxes, I'm not for your candidate. If you are for hiring more consultants who have no vested interest in Cross Lake, I am not your candidate. You have a choice. You can vote for the status quo, or if you want a strong infrastructure, preservation of our environment, keeping our taxes in check, effectiveness at the local government,
Okay.
then I am your candidate.
Thank you.
The choice is yours.
Thank you. Yes. Mr. Nevin, the last time you need to get up and walk back and forth.
Why am I running for this? That is a $10 million question. I just kind of believe that we all have got an obligation to do something, and if this is what I'm supposed to do, I'll do it. I probably am bringing a little different thing to the council because I'm not an educated, I'm just a working guy, raising kids and trying to figure out each day as we go. So maybe that'll bring a little balance to the council. I don't know. But why am I running? I really don't have a clue, but if you elect me, I guess I'll do the best I can.
Okay, thank you. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, we'd like the candidates, if they can, to spend some time after the forum is completed and answer questions of individuals or meet with them in small groups. So if you could do that, we'd appreciate it. And Pat and I, on behalf of the League of Women Voters of the Brainerd Lakes area and the Cross Lake community, thank the candidates and our audience for tonight's participation. Thank you very much, candidates. Okay. Everyone drive safely home.
Good luck to you. Good luck to you.
You can beat out Chris Matthews anytime.